Hey guys, welcome back to Mr. Danel's Social 9 podcast. Today we are on Chapter 6, Episode 5, Section 2, and we're focusing on competition and monopolies. This is one of the last episodes for this chapter, and it was a pretty big chapter. So, competition, basically exactly what it sounds like. When two companies that are selling the same or similar products are competing with each other for our business. Competition is about producers striving to get consumers to buy their products. Producers attract consumers in a variety of ways, through different prices and product quality. For example, many factors can affect competition in an economic system, including the values of consumers and decisions by government to become involved in decisions about supply and demand. So, not a question here, just a food for thought. Imagine there are two donut shops in your neighborhood. I wish. Fox Creek example is imagine there's two pizza places. Each one wants your business. What can they do? So you have the example on the left there says automatic donuts. This shop specializes in cheap, plentiful donuts. It makes large quantities of donuts, 5 kinds. With the machine, it uses bargain ingredients. So cheap, fast, lots of them. And the other one, we got Baker's Dozens. This shop specializes in handmade donuts. It employs a staff of bakers and uses high quality ingredients. It makes 13 kinds of donuts for higher prices. So, same product, donuts, but their audience that they're going for is very different. That is how effectively two companies on the same product can still coexist in the same area. So think about the pizza places in Fox Creek and think of if their audience that they're targeting is the same. Are they different? Is one cheaper? Is one more expensive? Is one better quality? Etc. So, stuff to think about when you think about competition. So some other examples here. In a mall, many different kinds of stores compete for your business. The stores are owned by individuals or companies that seek to make profit, so they want you to buy things. Consider the last time you shopped at a mall. So just consider it. How do stores and malls try to influence your ideas about what you need and want? How does this connect to the variety and quality of services a mall offers? On the right there, you got this shop sells skateboards. To make a profit, it needs to encourage consumers to buy skateboards rather than making other decisions about spending or saving their money. Again, think critically. How might this skateboard shop compete for your business? If you own a skateboard, what might influence you to buy another? If you don't own a skateboard, what might persuade you to try one? Think about strategies companies use to try to get you to buy their product instead of another. So did you know? Monopoly versus competition. In an economic system, the opposite of competition is monopoly. A monopoly happens when one producer controls all supply of a product or service. Governments sometimes create monopolies as a way to provide essential services that require expensive infrastructure, such as water lines or sewer lines. In Canada, the Canadian Wheat Board is a government agency that some consider a monopoly because it markets wheat in Western Canada on behalf of all wheat growers. This means that wheat boards set the price of wheat. The price is not set by competition among wheat growers or their customers. The purpose of the wheat board is to protect wheat growers from low market prices. Some Canadians support the role of the agency while some oppose it. You got to think that the government sets the price for wheat. Okay, the negative is if you were a wheat grower, like a farmer, and you wanted to make maybe you wanted to make a better quality and sell your product for more, you can't. But the benefit of that is if all of a sudden the market went low, which means the price of wheat was too low, it means wheat farmers would not be making any money. In some cases, governments intervene to prevent monopolies and restore competition among producers. In the United States, for example, Microsoft Corporations had to adjust its software product Windows to allow compatibility with browsers other than its own Internet Explorer. So, Microsoft Windows Think about that. It's on basically every single computer ever besides Mac. And originally, they had said that no browsers, so think Google Chrome, Firefox, basically anything other than Internet Explorer wouldn't work. So that gave Microsoft a monopoly over the browser industry, where the government stepped in and said, no, this is not allowed. So some other examples of government involvement. Market economics relies on the decisions of individual consumers and producers. Sometimes government get involved to inform, protect, or ensure good practices. They may intervene if they feel consumers are not being fairly treated. For example, the BC government started its own auto insurance program because it believed private insurers were making auto insurance too expensive. Okay, so that's a good example of when the government stepped in. Another little did you know? In 2007, Canada's government launched an investigation under the Competition Act into price fixing among chocolate manufacturers. The objective of the Competition Act is to maintain and encourage competition in Canada in order to provide consumers with competitive prices and product choices. Consider how the price of chocolate could affect your quality of life. An example here is that if all these different chocolate companies came together and secretly decided to all increase their prices, okay, that would mean they're faking competition, which is illegal, because then the price would go up for everybody, all of us as consumers. So it's illegal for them to price fix together. Underneath that, you got the education of these high school students comes from money collected and distributed by the government. From taxes, governments often fund products and services they consider essential for public good, such as education. Postal services is another example. Here you got assignment 9. You got this is one is actually mostly based on your opinion. This comic's about a filmmaker asking for a grant, so basically money from the government to produce a Canadian film. Now, this is your opinion on this issue, but basically it's about should the government provide money, in this case to a Canadian filmmaker because he's trying to make a movie on Canadian history, or should it just be left up to the public to decide, is your movie good enough to earn our dollar, earn our money? Assignment 10 is a little letter. Again, your opinion on the filmmaker grants. So what is a labor union? So slightly moving off into a different topic here. But workers organize labor unions to represent their needs to employers. Unions provide a way for workers to act as a group, and unions make collective bargaining possible. By organizing workers into groups, unions can pressure employers about wages, working hours, and workplace safety. Strikes are a form of pressure. During strikes, workers as a group refuse to do their jobs. Today, unions exist in many parts of Canada's economy, including transportation, education, healthcare, forestry, construction, manufacturing, public services, and others. There is unions everywhere, including teachers' union. Because of unions, Canada has labor laws such as the Canada Labor Code. Canada's labor laws establish that workers have a right to form unions. They also describe bargaining procedures for unions and employers and set standards for wages, hours, safety, holidays, and other matters. Governments in Canada have opposed unions at times. You can read more about this on page 234. And it would have been a really good discussion to have, and we still can, in our class on Tuesday, or our next class that we have, and looking at some of when unions first came out, they were really, really needed. Employers were treated very poorly, weren't getting paid enough money, dangerous working conditions, etc. Nowadays, there's a lot more other laws in place to protect the worker, and we have minimum wage. So what's happening now is almost a switch where it went from the boss bullying the employers. I use that word bully liberally here. It's now coming down to almost the workers now bullying the boss, which also causes some negative consequences. So an example, what was the Winnipeg general strike? A general strike is when workers in different sectors of the economy in a particular place, a city or a nation, for example, organized to stop working at the same time. This happened in Winnipeg in 1919. The Winnipeg general strike happened after World War I, when many people had trouble finding jobs. It also happened 2 years after the Russian Revolution, in which workers had organized to help overthrow the Russian government. The Russian Revolution made Canada's government fearful of the potential power of workers. It responded to the Winnipeg general strike by sending police to make arrests. One striker died and 20 more were injured when police rode into the crowds of strikers on horseback. This was another example of filmmakers. So it says, Canada's victory at Passchendaele is an astounding story of determination, commitment, and triumph. Sadly, with each passing year, the story of our nation's valor is fading. With the filming of Passchendaele, we are determined to rectify this. In the fall of 2007, actor/filmmaker Paul Gross shot the $20 million film Passchendaele near Calgary. The movie received a $3.5 million in federal funding, as well as $5.5 million from Alberta's provincial government. So almost half of the movie was granted by the government. The movie is about a World War I battle in Belgium in which Canada was victorious, but where more than 15,000 Canadian troops died. Some historians consider the battle important to the development of Canada's identity as a nation. So when you think about this, it's why would the government give a grant to make a movie? And the big reason why is stepping in to help promote Canadian identity and history. Almost think of it like a museum. So don't think of it as much as I wouldn't go see this movie in theaters. It's not going to buy, it's no Avengers Endgame. So why would the government use this money for this? And think of it like a museum and being important to the history of Canada, where the movie might not make enough money in theaters, for example. Would this movie be successful in the U.S. or another country besides Canada? Probably not. So that's some stuff to think about. Think of it more like a museum and promoting Canada's history. So again, we got a little review here. Canada mixed economy. You got your line. Okay, so depending on how you're looking at me here, Canada's in the middle, mixed. Okay, go more to the right. Okay, right is market economy. U.S. more U.S. more market. Okay, which means less government involvement. If you go to the left, you're looking at more planned type economy or command economy, which is more government involvement. Okay, so on the far right, you got places like the U.S. Canada is more right, okay, than it is left, which means less government involvement. You want to start a business, you can start a business. That's right, market economy. Left, more government control. Way to the left would be places like North Korea, where the government controls everything. Okay, so if this is the quick review here. If you know mostly all these, you're looking good for this chapter. So what's a crown corporation? Corporation or business owned by the government. Scarcity, what's supply and demand, right? When the supply goes up, the demand goes down, the price has to go down, etc. What are the three factors of production? So land, labor, capital. What's the economic continuum? That's the line. Shift right, market economy, shift left, planned economy. And go through the rest on your own there, okay? And your second last assignment is the open book review. And your last assignment here is the create a product where you're going to create a commercial for me, okay? It doesn't have to be, picture commercials, 1 to 2 minutes long, okay? Closer to a minute probably. But basically can do this maybe in partners if you're allowed, or by yourself, get someone to videotape you. What's your product? You're trying to sell it to me, so you're going to need the price, what's the quality, what's its usefulness, talk about all the stuff that a commercial would talk about. You're trying to sell your product to me. Okay, you can create a video, which I would prefer, or if you really don't want to do that, you can do a Google slideshow describing your product to me as well. But you need everything on in the assignment on there. Okay, price, usefulness, quality. What are some of the things you're talking about here? How are you going to incentivize people to buy your product? Okay, on the next slide here, we got some examples from the past. And I highly recommend you watch some of these. Were a really, really good commercials from the past. They're super funny and really, really well done. Okay, that is it for this episode. And I'll be doing a few bonus episodes as well to kind of go a bit more in depth into supply and demand and the 3 factors of production. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a great day.